With just 8 albums, including 2 iconic soundtracks, Whitney Houston left a mark on pop and R&B that is still unmatched. She was a vocal powerhouse with chart records that shattered expectations, from being the first woman to debut at #1 on the Billboard 200 to securing 7 consecutive #1 singles. But behind the dazzling success was a complicated relationship with fame. A woman constantly under the spotlight, battling harsh media scrutiny and a highly public, toxic marriage that often overshadowed her artistry. Yet even through the chaos, Whitney gave us vulnerability, power, and grace in her music. And since her untimely passing in 2012, her legacy has only deepened. The voice, the songs, the impact, it all still resonates. So today on CT, we're celebrating the legacy by revisiting and ranking every Whitney Houston studio album. Give us a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe and comment if you love it, support us on Patreon to get access to our Discord, and visit shop.culturalisttheory.com for all your CT merch needs. Without further ado, let's get to it. Number 8, I Look to You. With decades in the game, by 2009, Whitney Houston's story has shifted from platinum pop queen to tabloid survivor. 5 years post-divorce from Bobby Brown, and 3 years after publicly acknowledging her drug struggles, she returned, voice raspier, spirit intact, and ready to remind the world who invented the modern R&B crossover. I Look to You, executive produced by Clive Davis, brought together A-list collaborators like Alicia Keys, Swizz Beatz, R. Kelly, Stargate, Danger, and Akon, not to chase trends, but to anchor her in the sound that built her legacy. The result? A #1 debut on the Billboard 200 and 305,000 first-week sales, her first US chart topper since The Bodyguard in 1992. Alicia Keys kicks off the album with the disco soul heater $1 Million Bill, letting Whitney struck with groove and grit. Stargate wraps her in silky guitars on Call You Tonight, while R. Kelly's title track swells with gospel pathos. Akon shines on Like I Never Left and I Got You, while Nothing But Love and For the Lovers are less graceful detours into the late 2000s clubland. But Whitney regains footing with her version of A Song for You, which unexpectedly flips the smoky ballad to house anthem halfway through. Lyrically, I Look to You is gratitude and determination. Worth It pledges loyalty, Salute throws side-eye to doubters, and I Look to You clings to faith. It feels less like a fairy tale and more like a journal. Honest, uneven, resilient. The album went platinum in 15 countries and sold 3 million worldwide, outperforming albums by Madonna and Jay-Z that year. Houston capped the run with an emotional 2-part sit-down with Oprah and her final global tour. I Look to You is not a replica of the laser-bright soprano who once cracked glass on I Will Always Love You. Instead, it's the sound of a battle-scarred contralto leaning into grain, choosing pocket over pyrotechnics, and turning survival into song. For listeners who grew up with Whitney and faced their own tests, divorce, single motherhood, reinvention, it's a mix of throwback grooves, modern R&B, and gospel balm. If you want the most contemporary sounding Whitney set, cue this up. If you want the wisdom of a woman who's walked through fire and kept the melody, keep it on repeat. In her final studio statement, she looked to love, faith, and self-belief, and found a place where the new voice could shine just as brightly as the old. Number 7, The Bodyguard. By 1992, Whitney Houston was already 3 blockbuster albums deep, but she was ready for something new. Acting had always called her, and the Bodyguard script from Kevin Costner finally felt right. Whitney didn't just star, she took creative control of the soundtrack, hand-picking producers and delaying filming to cut 6 new songs. The movie made her a box office draw, but the music? That was legacy work. It opens with the showstopper, her reinvention of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You. She starts a cappella, almost a whisper, then delivers the key change that still floors crowds today. Right after comes I Have Nothing, a dramatic ballad so lush with horns and strings it could be the movie's climax. I'm Every Woman turns a Chaka Khan classic into a house party. Run to You glides with glassy elegance, while Jesus Loves Me brings gospel back home with BB Winans. But not every swing hits. Queen of the Night fuses New Jack Swing and rock grit, but sounds more like a 1992 time capsule than a timeless banger. Still, the strength of the A-side makes up for the fumble. The soundtrack's second half hands the aux to guests. Kenny G and Aaron Neville vibe on Even If My Heart Would Break. Lisa Stanfield brings smooth blue-eyed soul on Someday I'm Coming Back. And Curtis Steiger warms up What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding. A Bill Withers sample on It's Gonna Be a Lovely Day brings 90s boom bap, but where's Thin Fast? Still, the numbers don't lie. The Bodyguard soundtrack sold 1 million copies in its first week, hit diamond in under a year, and moved over 45 million globally. It's the best-selling soundtrack ever, and the best-selling album by a woman, period. Awards, Grammys, AMAs, Oscars, you name it. More than stats, The Bodyguard changed culture. Whitney proved a Black woman could rule Hollywood and the charts at the same time. Even if side B lags, the first half is pure vocal Mount Rushmore. Spin it from the top and wait for the first I, goosebumps guaranteed. Number 6, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's self-titled debut dropped on Valentine's Day 1985, but her love affair with music had started long before. Raised on gospel in Newark and mentored by her mother, Cissy Houston, Whitney was already seasoned by 21, having sung backup for Chaka Khan and the Neville Brothers, modeled for 17, and wowed Clive Davis at a Manhattan showcase in 1983. Davis spent nearly 2 years curating the perfect material, and when the LP finally landed, Houston was ready to merge R&B soul with top 40 polish. The opener, You Give Good Love, eases in with silky Quiet Storm charm, spotlighting her control and range. But things get bubbly fast. Tracks like Thinking About You and Someone For Me are fun but forgettable. Then comes Saving All My Love For You, a torch song so tender it could melt steel. The back half is where the magic multiplies. How Will I Know? A demo reject turned pop classic, lets Whitney flex joy and vocal precision. Duets with Jermaine Jackson, Take Good Care of My Heart, Nobody Loves Me Like You Do, add warmth, but it's greatest love of all that seals her legacy, a power ballad that transcends cliche with gospel-rooted conviction. The album didn't debut big, starting at number 166 on Billboard, but climbed to number 1 for 14 weeks and went diamond, moving 25 million copies globally. It was the first debut by a solo woman to score 3 number 1 singles and top year-end charts worldwide. Houston won Best Female Pop Vocal at the 1986 Grammys, but was controversially shut out of Best New Artist. That's because she had previous duet credits. But the snub only fanned her fame, proving that gatekeepers could not outmaneuver public demand. 40 years on, Whitney's debut plays like a blueprint. Minor sequencing hiccups aside, Whitney Houston feels both like a time capsule and a prophecy, a playbook for generations of divas to come. And that voice? Still unmatched.
Yo, what's good, people? It's your man, CJ Williams.
I'm QB.
Yo, we just want to say thank you for tapping into the channel. If you're commenting, if you're liking it, you ain't even got comment or like. If you're just tapping in and watching, we appreciate you.
You know what? Actually, share this video. And if you're not in the Patreon, make sure you tap into Patreon where you can get access to the Discord, chat it up with some like-minded people. And we got merch.
Yeah, merch. We got bonus content as well. So make sure you tap in, man. If you like the list, you like the countdowns, there's more where that came from. Hit the link in the description. Support the channel. We're trying to do big things, so we appreciate it.
We're on our way to big things, man. We'll see you in the next one.
Number 5, Just Whitney. When Just Whitney dropped in November of 2002, the headlines nearly drowned out the music. Whitney Houston had just signed a historic $100 million Arista deal, weathered years of public scrutiny, and watched a new class of R&B divas rise in her shadow. But instead of retreating, she stepped back into the studio with something to prove, that her voice still had power, perspective, and plenty to say. The album opens with One of Those Days, a silky self-care bop that flips the Isley Brothers between the sheets. Whitney doesn't belt, she floats, sounding like a woman finally exhaling. Babyface brings the drama on Tell Me No, pairing her vocals with rock guitars and soul polish. Missy Elliott taps into her flirtier side with Things You Say, while My Love, a surprisingly tender duet with Bobby Brown, swaps drama for affection. The project ends with What You Looking At, a media clapback that still thumps thanks to its Dark Child bass line. Just Whitney debuted at number 9 on the Billboard 200 and number 3 on the R&B hip-hop chart, her strongest SoundScan era launch, and spawned 4 charting singles, 3 of which topped Billboard's Dance Club chart. It went platinum in the US and sold more than 2.5 million worldwide. This isn't the fairy tale Whitney of the 80s, nor the genre-hopping trailblazer of My Love Is Your Love. It's the grown woman chapter, flawed, soulful, and honest. The voice is huskier, but the conviction hits deeper. 20 years on, Just Whitney sounds like a woman who's taken every headline and turned it into healing. Number 4, My Love Is Your Love. By the time My Love Is Your Love dropped in '98, Whitney Houston had been through it. After an 8-year break from solo studio albums, the music world had shifted. Hip-hop and R&B had evolved, Brandy and Lauryn Hill were the new school, and Whitney's personal life was front-page news. But when she came back, she came back. Not with a dated greatest hits retread, but with a fresh, fearless grown woman R&B album. Right out the gate, It's Not Right, But It's Okay sets the tone. Produced by Rodney Jerkins, it's a cold-blooded kiss-off wrapped in a club beat. Whitney doesn't beg, she bounces. Heartbreak Hotel with Faith Evans and Kelly Price brings the ache, but also the power. It's Whitney refusing to crumble. The title track, My Love Is Your Love, flips the vibe completely. Wyclef Jean gives a reggae-tinged groove that feels intimate and effortless. It's mellow, but magnetic. Like Lauryn Hill and Bob Marley got together, and Whitney showed them how to make a hit. When You Believe with Mariah Carey could have been a diva duel, but it's more of a spiritual summit. Two legends, one mic, no ego. In My Business tries a Missy-fueled rap soul mashup, but doesn't quite stick the landing. Still, Whitney's voice makes even the misfires interesting. The rest of the album goes deep into heartbreak, healing, and hard-earned lessons. I Learned From the Best is a classic Whitney drama, while I Bow Out and Get It Back channel breakup rage into Rodney Jerkins' fire. Until You Come Back and You'll Never Stand Alone close things out with vintage balladry and that unmistakable voice. My Love Is Your Love sold over 10 million copies and earned Whitney a Grammy for It's Not Right, proof that the Queen still had the crown. It's her bounce back album, and it's worth running back. Number 3, The Preacher's Wife. After The Bodyguard and Waiting to Exhale, Whitney Houston was ready for something deeper. Life was messy, tabloid drama, a high-profile marriage, but spiritually, she craved a return to her roots. Enter The Preacher's Wife. Not just a Denzel-led holiday film, but a gospel-soaked soundtrack that was a love letter to her faith, family, and the Black church experience. Right from the jump, the album is pure soul food. I Believe in You and Me, a Four Tops cover, becomes a glowing ballad full of grace. Step by Step transforms an Annie Lennox written track into a motivational anthem. Whitney style, of course, powerful but not preachy. But when she leans fully into gospel, the roof comes off. Joy, I Go to the Rock, and He's All Over Me, backed by the Georgia Mass Choir, feel like full-blown Sunday service. I Love the Lord is another vocal clinic, soulful, reverent, and bone deep. One gem is Hold On, Help Is on the Way, a spiritual shoulder to lean on. Then comes a surprise, a duet with Bobby Brown. On paper, questionable. In practice, surprisingly moving. Joined by Faith Evans, Monica, and Johnny Gill, Somebody Bigger Than You and I turned into a moment of messy, redemptive grace. The R&B joints don't miss either. You Were Loved, written by Diane Warren and produced by Babyface, is a slept-on stunner. And My Heart Is Calling, also helmed by Babyface, adds a sensual, grown-up warmth that blends effortlessly into the gospel context. Commercially, the album soared. It debuted at number 12, climbed to number 3 on the Billboard 200, and became the highest-selling gospel album ever at the time, holding the number 1 spot on the gospel chart for 26 weeks. With more than 6 million copies sold, it proved church music had mainstream power. The Preacher's Wife isn't just a soundtrack, it's a spiritual experience. It's Whitney letting her church girl flag fly, delivering messages of love, hope, and faith with world-class vocals and soul-stirring production. Some call it her most underrated work, while others say it would have been her best album had it not been tied to the film. Either way, this is essential listening for gospel lovers, R&B heads, and anyone who wants to hear Whitney Houston at her most heartfelt and powerful. Amen. Remember those albums that changed everything? The ones you played on repeat? The soundtracks of your story. Now, they're not just memories, they're wearable. 8 classic albums pressed into every hoodie and tee. For the ones who grew up on that real hip-hop, and the ones who are still catching up, this is more than merch, it's a tribute. Wear what raised you. Available now at shop.culturalisttheory.com. Number 2, I'm Your Baby Tonight. In 1990, Whitney Houston was still pop royalty, but the R&B crowd wasn't exactly cheering. After 2 crossover smashes and getting booed at the Soul Train Awards, critics accused her of going too pop. Whitney heard them loud and clear. Stepping in as executive producer for the first time, she linked with New Jack Swing Kings, L.A. Reid, and Babyface to craft I'm Your Baby Tonight. The project announced a tougher, more street-savvy Whitney determined to run her own show. The title track wastes no time. From the first punched-up drum loop, it's clear the production has teeth, and Whitney matches it with vocal gymnastics, flipping between silky runs and percussive growls. Pure attitude, but still clear as crystal. My Name Is Not Susan follows suit, flipping a warning into a club-ready brush-off. When things slow down, the album shows its soul. All the Man That I Need begins as a Sunday morning confession and swells into full gospel fireworks, organ, sax, and a keychain that could raise the blinds on any rainy day. Miracle and Lover for Life smolder slow and sweet. The deep cut many fans swear by, I Belong to You, is pure velvet. Slick chorus, rubbery bass line, and Whitney stacking her own harmonies until the track feels like a one-woman choir. Variety is the record's secret sauce. Anymore is funky and feisty, while I'm Knocking closes the set with playful swagger. Not every track sticks. Who Do You Love leans too far into the early 90s gloss, and After We Make Love doesn't quite land, but the vocals never falter. If some of the swing beat programming screams vintage, the singing stays timeless. The numbers backed up the ambition too. The LP hit number 3 on the Billboard 200, topped the R&B chart for 8 weeks, and spun off 6 hit singles in 2 years. With that, Whitney became the first woman whose first 3 albums all landed in the pop top 3 and R&B top 3. The title track and All the Man That I Need went number 1, with the album eventually moving 10 million copies worldwide and earning multiple awards. We don't even have time to name them all. So where does I'm Your Baby Tonight sit today? For R&B lovers, it's the moment Whitney stopped chasing pop perfection and stepped onto the dance floor with the rest of us. The choruses are sticky, the swing groove still slaps at the cookouts, and the ballads hit that sweet spot just right. Yes, you'll hear a few dated keyboard stabs, but you'll also hear an artist seizing control and turning her haters into her motivators. Number 1, Whitney. When Whitney dropped June 1st, 1987, the 23-year-old phenom was already a global superstar, but she still had something to prove. The gospel-trained Jersey girl had become an international superstar, and critics said she played it too safe, leaning too heavily on ballads. So Whitney linked up with Clive Davis and a dream team of producers to show she could make people dance as hard as she could make them cry. The result? The first album by a woman to debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with 11 weeks on top, and 25 million records sold worldwide. The opener, I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me, is pop perfection. Snappy drums, sunshine synths, and a chorus that still packs dance floor euphoria. But don't get it twisted. Whitney isn't just cotton candy pop. Just the Lonely Talking Again shows her R&B chops, while Love Will Save the Day fuses Latin percussion and gospel urgency. The ballads are pure emotion. Didn't We Almost Have It All is a heartbreak anthem with a build that cuts deep, and Where Do Broken Hearts Go answers with cautious optimism, her voice carrying both ache and faith in a single sustained note. She finds grit on So Emotional, gives cheek on Love Is a Contact Sport, and smooths things out on her Isley Brothers cover For the Love of You. Deep cuts like You're Still My Man and Where You Are tackle distance and devotion. The curtain closes with I Know Him So Well, a mother-daughter duet that softens the spotlight and nods to her theater roots. Compared to her doe-eyed debut, Whitney feels more layered. Joy and heartbreak sit side by side. For every ecstatic chorus, there's a lyric about almost losing it all. Under the polished production, you can hear a young woman navigating fame, pressure, and love. The smile was bright, but the voice carried the full weight. Commercially, the album was a juggernaut. 4 consecutive number 1s, a record 7 straight Hot 100 chart toppers, a record that still stands today, and a diamond plaque that came in 2020. Did you know that Houston was the first Black artist with 3 diamond albums? Grammys, AMAs, Soul Train Awards, and NAACP awards followed. It proves that the pristine voice can also sound human, that pop gloss and real feelings aren't mutually exclusive, and that a young Black woman could dominate arenas without softening her shine. For R&B fans, especially ones who balance joy, heartbreak, work, and weekend dreams, Whitney remains essential. If you enjoyed this ranking, check out our list on another superstar diva, Mariah Carey. After that, check out another ranking we did on powerhouse vocalist K. Michelle. Until next time, I'm QB. Peace.